Pat here, and thank you for joining me at inkon3. I'm really excited about this new stamp set, Oh Dear. It is so sweet and so fun to color. I decided I wanted to do some really fun watercoloring with it, and there are coordinating dies. And what's really great is you can see a lot of projects using this stamp set because our creative team did a hop with it, and you can see that in the description below. I'll leave a link. So I stamped it with the Fade Out No Line Coloring ink, and I wanted to do some no line coloring with it, and I'm going to be using our Atelier Artist Grade Fusion inks. They're brand new, they're really amazing, and they're really geared towards watercoloring and designed to work seamlessly with the Fade Out No Line Coloring ink. So you can see here I'm starting out with the flower at the top. It's like a flower crown on this deer. So what's really great about the ink is it's artist grade, so it has a lot of pigment in it, meaning it has a lot of color. So you can put it down and then you can get the light, the medium, and the dark tones real easily just by pulling the color with a little bit of water. And that's what I'm doing right here. So I started out with the purple. I'm just going to do a little bit of this flower crown piece because I actually did lose some footage. So I redid this flower section. And you'll see after this we're going to go straight to doing the deer, and you won't see the flowers, but that's why it's kind of a little mixed up, but because I lost footage somehow. But what I'm doing here is I'm putting down some of the Goddess Green and pulling the color out, and then I'm going to add some of the Maryland Red, and I'm going to color in one of the roses over to the side. And you can see it's blending real nice, and what I want to do for my first layer is just get a real light coating. I like to start light and then work my way dark most of the time. Kind of like maps things out for me. So now I'm going over some of the green leaves around that rose right there. And then after I'm done with that, I'm going to go back and start adding some of the deeper tones into it because I kind of mapped everything out in here. And what's really also great is I can layer colors over these inks. I can put yellow over it, and you're going to see me do that in just a minute. I also wanted to mention in this section the flowers and the leaves are a little smaller, so I'm working with a dry paper and a very, very damp, almost dry brush. So that's how I do some of the smaller sections. And now you can see that the flowers are not colored in this top section, and that's why I kind of did just a section of it because we jump ahead later. So for the rest of the deer, they're working in large sections. So I wet the paper first with my paintbrush, just enough to give the paper a glisten of water. You don't want to use too much water when you're watercoloring because that's how you'll lose a little bit of control. Not that we want to have a lot of control in watercoloring. We kind of want to let the colors move where they want to go. But if you oversaturate it, it gets more difficult to work with. So just put enough water on it to give a nice sheen on the paper. And you can see I'm doing the same thing to the top section here. I'm adding the water first. So this is wet on wet. And then I'm grabbing some of the Twiggy Brown and going lightly over all the sections I know I want to have kind of shadows, and I'm going to leave some white space in my paper as well. And those white spaces will act as highlights. So I'll have these really nice highlighted areas, these nice deep shadow areas, and you can see the ink is just really easy to work with. It basically glides across the top of your paper and it's very forgiving. So if you're a beginner or advanced, it's just nice to be able to work with your color and pull it and move it where you want it, and then be able to manipulate it as you go along. And the Atelier ink really does that. It's very, very forgiving, and I can just keep layering colors. I can start light if I want to and then work my way dark, or I could add maybe a little less water and then have a deeper color that I start with and then pull the light colors out. So however it is you prefer to work, this ink is going to lend itself to those different techniques. If whether you like wet on wet or you like to work with a dry paper and a damp brush, you can do all of those things. And it's just so much fun to work with, and it really is taking my own coloring to a new level. I cannot wait till everybody can have this ink in their hands and be able to play with it. So the next part I'm going to move on to is the antlers. So I'm going to do half of the antlers in a medium shade to start, and then pull some of the color over to the other area to get the lighter shades. And you'll notice with the fade out ink, it's grabbing the pigment from the ink and giving us the lines to work with and in the darker areas. And then when I pull it over, you're going to get those really, really light areas as well. So it kind of helps you with the coloring process. And the two inks together, it's just so much fun. You are just going to have so much fun playing with it this way. So now I'm doing a little bit on the chin and right under the mouth, and just going to kind of highlight some areas and leave some lighter. Now here you can see I'm back to the flower again, and I'm going to color in, I'm layering the yellow over the green, which normally it really is be difficult to do with other inks. But I can layer all these colors on top of each other, but you just want to make sure you let the sections dry before you layer the next color on top. And that helps you keep all the different colors. And you can see how it's really popping now. And I'm getting a little, I'm adding some deeper tones, adding a little more green. I added the yellow, a little more green. Now I'm going to add some of the deeper tones on the purple to give it some more depth. Now if you like the light look, you can go with a very light look. I happen to really like to get into like the nooks and crannies and get that really deep tone. And so that's what I'm doing here, is getting a little deeper tone just so it gives it a little more dimension. The other thing that I wanted to mention is you'll notice how bright and pretty the flower is, and you're going to see even after it dries, all of this is going to be bright and pretty. It's not going to dull down. It's not going to have a chalkiness to it. It's going to be bright and pretty. And usually when you're working with, inks like our fusion ink, you might wind up with a chalkiness. But that's what's different about this formulation. And it really did take, gosh, almost 2 years to create this ink, to get it to be vibrant and bright, but also be able to layer colors and have them glide across the top of the paper. And watercoloring is really just one thing you can do with it. You can blend with it, you can stamp with it, and you're going to get crisp, nice images and good coverage. So yeah, I know I'm talking a lot about the ink there, but I'm just so excited about it. So as you can see, now it's all coming together, and like I said, I had lost a lot of footage there, but all I did was add more layers and more shadowing. So as long as you follow the steps that I showed you, you can get this same look. And then to get the eyes, I actually kept my stamp in my MISTI so that I could later on go back and ink just the eyes and stamp those on so that I got these beautiful eyes that I didn't have to work hard to get in back into my image. And aren't they just so doe-eyed? Even though it's more of a male deer, I guess, with the antlers. But one of the people on the design team, and it's actually JC, you got to see his project. He actually cut it out and took the antlers off. So he actually did make his into a doe, and it is absolutely beautiful what he did as well. That just kind of spurred my thought about that when I was said the doe, the doe eyes. And here I'm adding even a deeper amount of shadows. So the shadowing you missed earlier, you can see a little bit of that now. And this is where you can see too how forgiving it is and how much you can manipulate it later on. Because you can see, you can go in there and sometimes you might get some watermarks on your watercoloring image, And a lot of times, once it's in there, you can't get it out. The amazing thing about Atelier is I can let it dry. I can go back later and then blend those areas out and really smooth things out and continue to add, continue to blend. It's really a lot of fun. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, here I'm going to go even deeper into the little crevices of the leaves. What I've put on my mat there is our watercolor re-inker. Now, that's why it's a little bit different way of thinking about ink, because these re-inkers or watercolors, as I like to think of them, were designed to work together with the ink pads. So you can drop a little out and get an even deeper tone. So it gives you a full range of color when you combine the two. So I think that's really fun. And I'm loving how this image is coming out. It just has so much depth, so much beautiful, vibrant color. I'm like really happy with the way it's turning out so far. And I can't wait to show you how I create a little card with it. So here I'm adding a little more green over the yellows and stuff. And then I decide to cut it out with the coordinating die cuts. Isn't that so cute? Look at that. I think it's cute just like it is, but of course we're card makers, and we want to make a card with it. This is a new little stand I got for my brushes, and I have a link in the description. Fabulous, just came today actually. And I put all of my picket fence life-changing brushes in it, which I'll also have the link to below. So I decided to do a little ink blending, because you can do that with the Atelier ink. I used the Peacock Blue Atelier ink, and now I'm going to put my stamp pieces back in my MISTI, and I'm going to use another piece from the stamp set that kind of gives like a little wire from antler to antler, and I'm going to get my ink on that with some Atelier Twiggy Brown. And here you're going to see, look how great it's stamped, even that really thin like wire. So, and then I'm going to take one of the other little stamps, and this is like a little ornament, and I'm going to put some of our Gold Rush embossing powder, on there, and I use the Juicy ink to emboss it with. It's a really fantastic embossing ink. And then again, I'm going to use some of the Atelier ink to the Peacock Blue, and then I did one side and then added some water just to blend it out, and I made a little ornament. I also stamped out some of the birds because I couldn't wait to make a card with little birds and an ornament and the wire. Isn't this so cute? So then I'm deciding where I'm going to put my little things. I put some foam tape under all of them before I decide to where I'm going to put them. So now I've got a nice arrangement, and I'm going to peel off the back of the tape and put my little bird on the top of one antler, and then over on the other side I'm going to kind of nest him in that antler there and put that one there, and then get my little ornament hanging off the wire. And I just think that's so cute. I also embossed a sentiment from the stamp set, Season's Greetings, and I just popped that up with a little foam tape. I'm using a little Gina K Connect glue, fabulous glue if you want to put your card front on and you get a little time to manipulate it, which I absolutely love. Now this card is looking fabulous. I'm super happy with it. And now it's time for the icing on the cake. We need a little bit of sparkle. So I'm going to grab some of the Inkon3 liquid pixie dust. Make sure you shake it real good before you use it. And I'm going to grab a little paintbrush. I dabbed a little on. And what you're going to notice is I am painting it right over what I just watercolored. And the really neat thing about liquid pixie dust is it also glides across the top. So you're not going to move all the work that you just did watercoloring. It's really going to keep things in place. I mean, it can every once in a while move it, but most of the time your watercoloring is going to stay just where it is because the liquid pixie dust just glides across the top. Now look at that shimmer. Isn't that so much fun? Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell so you get some notifications, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much and have a great day.